Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes during our live student broadcasts, we get so many questions from students, we don't have time to answer them all.
Sometimes? All the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
We get a lot of questions.
Oh, boy, do we.
What we're going to do for the month of December is we're going to answer the top upvoted questions by students we didn't answer.
So even though it's January right now, we're going to be answering questions that were posed to us by students in our December presentations that we did.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, as we do every month.
Gotcha.
Alrighty, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
First question. How do you dox somebody?
I'll let you do that.
Well, there's various ways. There's doxing when you collect information about the person that is publicly available. If that becomes illegal or not, I mean, that's a huge argument. Typically not, unless you're making threats about it. The other kind of doxing is where you are stealing or hacking information from a private source. Well, then the hacking of itself is an illegal activity, which then becomes problematic. So those are the two doxing strategies that are used.
Next question.
What are some tips to stay anonymous online?
That's an interesting question because, you know, in the presentation that we do, we talk more about increasing your privacy issues to prevent these big data brokers from being able to collect your information. So from a privacy standpoint, to protect more of your privacy, we talk about think about using the Firefox browser, the Ghost Street browser, or the Brave browser. We talk about rather than using Google search, think about using DuckDuckGo or Start Page if you're using a PC. And then we also talk about the issues surrounding, you know, rather than using Gmail, think about using Proton Mail and combining all of that with a really good premium VPN. Those strategies help to protect your privacy. But from an anonymous standpoint, what do you think?
It's those same strategies as well. It's more so controlling what it is that you post.
Yeah.
If you are posting, I'm going to go for coffee at this coffee shop. Well, now we know a rough location, or
right.
Go to this school. So it's more so controlling what it is that you are sharing. That's kind of the more important part of staying anonymous on the internet.
And just to build upon that, staying anonymous may not necessarily be in your best interest as you get older, right? Because we know that in a lot of college, universities, sporting teams, and even employers will actually use the internet to look for really good candidates, right? That they're looking for scholarships, grants, sporting team opportunities, or even job opportunities. So becoming searchable when you're getting older, like in grades 11 and 12 and on, may be in your better interest. I think for me, it's more about protecting the amount of information that the internet knows about us that they're selling to third-party brokers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is a single hate crime enough to prevent getting a job or getting into a prestigious college?
It could be.
It very well could be.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, again, it's something that you have to be very, very, very aware of, right?
If we delete our account on anything, is the information gone?
No. I mean, a really good example of that, we talk about it, like Instagram. Even if you delete your Instagram account, when you first signed up to it, you gave Instagram the rights to use the information. So even if you delete the information, they still have it, and they have the right to use it for up to 30 or 31 years. Right?
Yeah, depends on the platform you're using. Yeah, some platforms, when you delete something, the information is removed off their servers, but a lot of platforms stipulate that although you might delete something immediately off the primary server, there are backup servers that might take some time for redundancies to be overwritten.
Or another issue could be if somebody has screen captured what you've done on those accounts that you've deleted, there's nothing to stop them from reposting the screen captures that they got, right? So, I mean, this is why we always say that no matter what your platform, no matter what your privacy settings, always understand that what you're posting can become public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and later on sold as well, right? Yeah.
Why don't hackers hack the government?
Brandon?
Well, they do. Although when a hacker tries to hack the government, you know, who controls law enforcement? The government.
Yeah, government.
So there's usually problems with that. Government sometimes does have higher security, just given the kind of work that it does. Sometimes businesses are hacked more often because they can be easier targets. A lot of businesses, they want to make money, so they cut savings or by cutting security programs to save a buck.
Yeah, a government is constantly under attack, especially by other state actors, other governments around the world, but they are under heavy attack as well.
They are.
It's just that they have more gating and protection processes in place, right?
If you if you watch any, I guess, TV shows or anything, there's always the story of the government employee being restricted in what they can do in their job,
Right.
where there's all this bureaucracy and checks and balances. It makes you hard to do and then that's somewhat realistic,
Right.
because when it comes to businesses, often they want to make things fast and efficient.
Right.
So sometimes security is second thought.
Yeah.
How can you tell if the tech support is fake?
Go for it.
It can be hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hackers and scammers will use the same messages, the same logos, the same language that's used in tech support assistance programs in order to trick and hack consumers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest concern or indicator would be if you are being approached by tech support and you're not the one that reached out in the first place, that would be the first indicator that something might not be all that right.
My recommendation is that if you're having issues, if you get an unsolicited message from a tech support, always go to the platform in which the tech support says they're from, and then connect with them directly from the platform, right? It's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Who invented hacking?
Hacking's been around forever. It was here even before the internet was here, right? Like hacking covers so many different things.
Yeah, if you want to break down the word hacking to its root meaning, it's basically taking something apart or putting things back together.
You were hacking when you were like 5 years old, man. You were taking apart stuff all the time.
Yeah. So hacking in the more recent modern use of the word is more so used to describe digital hacking and cybercrime. But hacking refers to a wide, even lockpicking is considered a hacking. So
I think the person who really brought this to the forefront, who really became the first person to be, was it Sitnik or
Kevin Mitnick?
Kevin Mitnick,
Kevin
right?
Mitnick. When in the digital world, like the current usage and meaning of the word hacker, how we mostly use it in everyday language. Yeah, I think Mitnick was probably like the most
well known, not necessarily the first, but the most
well known. I mean, I think they were. They were the FBI's top 10 wanted list for a good while.
And he was arrested by the FBI, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. There's a lot of great stories that they share. He has some great published books on that. Is it better to use a stage name on an account you don't share your face on?
Well, again, I think it depends upon it. It's not uncommon. Like Instagram's a good example. A lot of youth will have an Instagram page for everybody to see, and then they'll have a Finstagram page, a second page that uses a different name or anonymous name without a picture, and that's one that they kind of go and do things and say things with friends and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I think what's important is that sometimes even when you create a secondary account that maybe you're not using your real name, sometimes it can still be associated with you, right? So those are issues that you need to be aware of, but it's not uncommon that happens, right?
If I have a VPN, am I safe?
I guess it depends upon what you're using the VPN for, right? Like a VPN, primarily what it does, it encrypts your communication if you're using open Wi-Fi or using Wi-Fi. And number two, it can change your location. But even if you're changing your location or encrypting your messaging using a VPN, if you're still saying and doing things you shouldn't be doing or saying, can they come back to haunt you later on? Sure they can.
Yeah, right? A VPN won't necessarily protect you from downloading a virus.
That's right.
All right. So I would say a VPN does make you safer in the whole scope of the internet, but it's not a
we actually support VPNs, right? Because what it does do is it does encrypt your messaging. So if somebody intercepts it, it's encrypted, it's gobbledygook. And it can change your location as well, so that it makes it from a safety standpoint safer, where it makes harder for people to locate where you're actually located. Located where you're located. Whoa.
Are VPNs free? They can be. There is a problem. There has been various cases over the past 10 years now where there've been free VPN companies that were discovered that they were actually collecting your data and selling it.
Yeah.
If you want to use a free VPN, make sure the service you're using also offers a premium VPN.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there are free trial versions, or you can have a limited, like maybe you get a gigabyte per month for free, and then you have to pay for the premium go-to service.
Yeah.
So do your research. Pick from the top VPN services. There's Private Internet Access,
That's what we
Nord. Any of the big brand name ones are generally what you want to go with.
The other challenge with free VPNs too is it slows down your internet connection, right? So that's another reason why free VPNs aren't
generally free ones are not. They're usually throttled.
Yeah.
Yes. How long do you think it would take you to find someone's personal information?
It depends. I mean, as online investigators, we can find stuff pretty quickly, but sometimes it takes us a couple hours or even maybe even a couple days to really drill down deeply on what the internet knows about you. I mean, in our leveraging program, I demonstrate how we were able to locate. We had a media person come to us and ask us because they thought that they were pretty safe about what they did online, not thinking that the internet knew much about them. And we were able to produce a 7-page document on just a ton of information that their jaws hit the ground. So, it kind of depends, right?
Mm-hmm. Why are people weird on the internet?
Because they're weird off the internet, right? I mean, I mean, that's... People can be weird, right?
There's also disinhibition.
Yeah. What's disinhibition?
The sense of anonymity, where basically, because on the internet, if your face isn't attached to it or your name's not attached to it, it can sometimes make you can have less sense of social pressure.
Yeah.
Where in a social setting, you're kind of forced to, go along with the group and act appropriately. On the internet, you can have some of that freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, but sometimes the internet can give people the ability to be their true weird selves.
True.
Without having to mask in public.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's various reasons.
Yeah.
How do you prevent hacking?
No, that's up your alley.
Well, you can't really completely eliminate that. I mean, there's always a potential for something to be broken or hacked into. There are ways and strategies you can deploy to prevent the likelihood of you being targeted.
And what are some of those?
Making sure you have good passwords, managing your passwords, different passwords, making sure if you have a social networking presence, make sure it's a private social network where you're only talking to people who you actually really do know.
Malware protection.
Antivirus, VPNs.
Don't clicking on links that you don't know where they're from.
Verifying what you download. Yeah. Like all those steps all contribute to reducing the chances that you will be hacked. Yep. Hackers are typically pretty lazy.
Yep.
If you have some security in place, skip you and go to the next person who's more vulnerable.
Yeah, they always go for, in a lot of cases, they always go for the lowest hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Not all the time, but a lot of times.
What is a geofence?
Yeah, a geofence is basically a program that allows you to put a square or any kind of shape on a mapping system, like Google Maps is a good example, and it looks for specific issues, maybe specific social media usages that are being used within the area of that geofence, right? And usually geofences will grab information on stuff that is public, not necessarily private in nature. That's what a geofence does.
A lot of social postings can be tagged with GPS coordinates.
That's right.
And if it's a public post, a geofence just tells a program, hey, pull everything within this area that has these coordinates.
Right. And if it's not privatized information, it becomes viewable, right, by the person who's looking. So,
what is swatting?
Swatting is something where people will dox you to get as much information about you as they can, but primarily trying to figure out where you live. And then what they'll do is they'll send in an anonymous tip to law enforcement saying, hey, listen, I just walked by this house that's located at 123 Sesame Street as an example. And when I passed by, I was looking through the window and I saw somebody that looks like they were wearing a mask and they had a gun in their hand. It looked like the family was being held hostage. And so as a result of that, the police agency will send the SWAT team, or what's called the emergency response team here in Canada, to the scene. And so that's what swatting is. And in both Canada and the United States, it is illegal. You could be arrested. We've had several teens arrested and people arrested here in Canada for it, and many in the US as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you get arrested for hacking someone that's been hacking? I've seen an increase in these kind of questions over the last few years. Essentially, can you hack someone back who hacks you?
Right.
And typically, there are no legal protections or exceptions to that.
No.
You cannot hack someone back because you hacking back is also a
illegal.
Breach of law.
Right.
I've actually seen a lot of, recently over the last 5 years now, I've seen a growth of various YouTube influencers who they will hack scammers.
Yeah.
But I've commented in a couple of their videos and
Right.
saying, well, if you live in North America, you have no protection to hack back, so you are also breaching your local laws.
Yeah.
But
it's not as if the hacker that you're hacking is going to go to the police and say, I've been hacked, because he'll now out, or they will now out themselves that they've been hacked as well and are breaking the law. However, it's illegal, right?
But there is a potential. I mean, if there's a hacker who's in another country, could they tip off your local law enforcement and go, hey, this person's breaching your law? Potentially. So where the hacker hacking you may not be arrested because where they live, they don't care.
This kind of reminds me, you're probably too young to remember this, but in my days when I was in middle school and high school, we had this comic strip called Spy versus Spy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where they would go back and forth kind of thing, right? So,
yeah. The only exception to hacking a hacker is typically if you're in law enforcement and you have a warrant to do so.
Correct.
Or you're a 3-letter government agency who do secret spy stuff.
FBI, CIA,
Yeah. Where you have an unlimited budget to do any kind of covert stuff. That's really the exceptions. It's now there have been proposed potential laws in the U.S. to give companies the ability to hack hackers who hack them. Hasn't been initiated yet, but as it stands, the answer is no.
Yeah, there was some talk when I was still in law enforcement as well, having the ability of law enforcement to send, like, basically hack sites that are promoting CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and sending them viruses and Trojans to try and knock them off the internet as well, right? So that never really went anywhere, but those are discussions that are always being, now state actors are probably doing that, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's no doubt about that, trying to do that. What was the one with was it Stuxnet?
Stuxnet?
Yeah, Stuxnet, right? With what happened with the Iranian enrichment programs for their nuclear program. So
yeah. I've seen some people say, well, it's self-defense. It's self-defense. Well, no, self-defense is typically it's a staged process. You have to leave the situation, talk yourself out of the situation, and then if you can't get out of the situation, then you can use...
One of the things when it comes to self-defense laws, I've always said to people, is that there is no such thing as catch-up when it comes to self-defense, right? Like, there's no such thing as catch-up. Like, if you're playing a game of catch-up, you're actually breaking the law. It's no longer self-defense, right?
It does depend where you live. I mean, yes, in the U.S., there is stand your ground.
Yeah.
And which... But typically you have to... do what you can before you get to that.
Yeah.
Does iOS prevent apps from stealing your information and data? It does a better job. Is it perfect? No. When Apple had updated its privacy requirements, companies like Facebook and such were pretty angry because they were more limited in what they could collect. Does it prevent things altogether? No. And usually you have to initiate and actually accept or deny those requests. So if you're someone who just says yes to every pop-up, well, you could be allowing that data tracking. So it usually asks you before that. Is coding also hacking? No. I mean, you can code a game without hacking.
Right.
Yeah.
But in order to be a hacker, do you need to know how to code? Yeah, in a lot of cases you do, right?
Yeah, we're using hacker in the more modern usage of a digital spy kind of person.
A lot of questions on hackers right now.
Yeah. How many hackers succeed in tricking people? There's no data.
Are there lots of successes?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It can be a simple fake website that looks like a real login page a hacker just puts on the internet and they see who clicks on it. It can be super simple as that. And it's not as if those hacking numbers are reported. Can you trust a friend with a password?
I'll answer that one. Remember, your friend today can be your frenemy tomorrow. This is why we say don't share your passwords with anybody. I mean, we've been involved in a lot of situations where teens have been involved in relationships, and it was a trusted relationship and partnership, and then all of a sudden there's a fight, there's a separation, and now the password that you shared with your partner out of trust, out of love, now your ex-partner becomes so jilted, so mad that what do? They go into your social media platforms because you shared your password with them, and they post horrible, evil, ugly things, and then they change your password so you can't get in to take it down, and everybody thinks it's you when in fact it was them. So the answer to your question, I think, is no. Like, you shouldn't be sharing your passwords with anybody, except into the world, parents, depending upon how old you are and that kind of stuff. But No, those passwords should not be shared with anybody.
Can people hack into your messages and see what's in there?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we recommend VPNs, right? Like, there are products out there that are made by companies like Hack5, like the Pineapple is a good example, that can intercept communications, and they can see and read and hear those communications. So a VPN, because it encrypts it, helps to prevent that from happening, right? So,
yeah, I mean, if you enter your password into a fake login site and a person can log in, if you download a virus, there's tons of ways.
Yeah, there are.
What should you do if someone steals your IP address?
No, go ahead, Brandon.
There's nothing inherently wrong with people knowing your IP address. It's like someone knowing your license plate number on a car. Inherently, every website you visit typically knows your IP address.
Yeah.
So people tend to think it's a super secret thing you have to keep private. It's like a home address or a car license plate.
For sure.
Where it becomes problematic if someone says, I know your IP address, here's where it is, here's where you live, and I'm going to do something bad to you.
Yeah,
so they're making a threat.
Or they DDoS your IP address, right? Where they do something like that. But, just because somebody has your IP address, big deal, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Would Fortnite streaming be better than going to university?
I'll answer that one. I just actually wrote an article on this, because a lot of days we hear a lot of teens saying to parents and others, hey, you know what? I want to be an e-gaming streamer. I want to be a streamer. I want to be a professional e-gaming athlete. And it's extremely rare that I think it was 0.6% of those people who get involved in becoming streaming influencers on whatever game site actually make any kind of good money about it. So one of the things that I say to young people is, go out and get some kind of education. Now, is a university degree, there's other options out there. Maybe going and getting there are college universities out there now that are specializing in trades, right? Learning how to code is a good example, or learning how to create new prompts because of things like AI and Chat GPT, right? So I still believe that getting some form of post-secondary education is important because it gives you another skill set that you can fall back on, right?
Yeah, I mean, or just getting work experience and going straight into the workforce and gaining experience. I mean, is it possible? Is it possible
Sure.
Fortnite streaming could be better than going to university? Yeah, if you're making a lot of money. It's like being a professional sports athlete.
Yeah, very rare.
It's rare it's going to happen, but if you're a Fortnite streamer, you're also learning things like production and marketing, which you can take that social media communication skills and apply to a business.
Right.
So I'm not going to rule it out altogether, but
hard though.
It's
hard.
It
takes a lot of effort, right? And you know that firsthand, right? Like it takes a lot of effort to become popular enough when it comes to streaming to make any kind of money at it. Yeah, there's some people out there that are making big bucks, like there really are, but it's rare.
Starting off, you'll be working over 40 hours a week for less than minimum wage, most likely.
Way over 40
Until
hours.
you magically blow up and become a massive streaming superstar, which is possible, but it is a risk.
Yeah.
But even going to university is a risk because even if you have a degree, there's no guarantee you're going to get a high-paying job.
Oh, here we go.
So
here we go.
Just being realistic. Can colleges find private accounts not connected to your IRL name?
Probably not. I mean, let's be honest about this, right? Like most colleges, and especially in Canada, United States a little bit differently, likely not, right? So they're not going to spend the time or effort.
No. I mean, if they're tipped off that you're doing horrible, evil, ugly things on this other account, they might launch an investigation. And if you're on a scholarship, you could lose that. I mean, just a simple application.
Yeah, and in fact, the Canadian Medical Association did a huge research study where they looked at colleges and universities, and they said that, listen, they really don't look at anything unless something is brought to their attention that there may be issues with this candidate, right? So things to think about.
I have 200,000 Reddit karma for moderating my subreddit for being cool. Will that make a college want to let me in more because of it? Well, it can be. Anything that you've put time and investment in, anything that is good, promotional, shows your skills or talent or goodwill, can be used to leverage your application.
Yeah, and it just depends upon what the content of Reddit is that you're getting.
That's true.
Karma on, right?
Yeah, that's true. True. It depends on where you get those imaginary karma points from. But if it's from good sources, then I mean, it shows that you're an online moderator, which in of itself is a skill that you could use. What happens if you post something privately? Can people still see it?
Well, those who are following you can, and there's nothing to stop those people who are following you from screen capturing it and then posting it publicly. And again, I can't tell you how many teens and adults we've helped deal with that situation. So again, that's why I keep saying that no matter what your privacy settings, no matter what your platform you're sending your content on, just understand that as soon as you hit that send button, it can still become public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and sometimes sold for profit.
Yeah. A follow-up question that I might be asked from that is, what if I have a social media account, I have no friends or followers, it's just a completely private, it's just me?
Right.
Well, probably other people, like private citizens, probably not, but Facebook Meta, TikTok recently have published reports where insider members, employees, had either exploited their position to access private information or were hired by hackers to get private information. So anything you have on the company, in the company, they can see what you're doing.
And in fact, it was Snapchat. Snapchat fired a couple of its employees because those employees were accessing private information in places like the For My Eyes Only component of the app and then posting them publicly.
Yeah,
right?
so Snapchat's problems, TikTok's had some employees, Facebook had employees, all the any big organization, social networking company, can you really be sure that every employee is going to be the best person?
Yeah, exactly. These are great questions from teens, right? Great questions.
Can colleges see your incognito search history? No. Unlikely.
No. But just understand that still a lot of teens and even adults believe that if they're using incognito or safe browsing mode, that nobody will be able to see what it is they're doing. And that's not true, because all incognito and safe browsing does is it prevents the history on your device from recording where you're going. But your internet service provider, Shaw, TELUS, AT&T, Verizon in the United States, they're still collecting that information, and that information accessible to law enforcement by way of warrant, right? Or production order.
So you talked about deleting your negative online aspects, but didn't you also mention that anything you post will be online forever?
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. It's more so about burying the negative stuff.
Correct.
In order for you to leverage your position on the internet to get those jobs and opportunities.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, young people are going to make mistakes. We actually say that, right? It's all about risk taking. We learn from our mistakes. And the challenge today is that when I was younger, we didn't have the internet. So if I made a mistake, it was forgotten in about 2 weeks, or another student did something even worse and took over the limelight. So, and it's understandable that younger teens are going to be saying and doing things online that they shouldn't be doing. We just hope that as they mature, that it's not going to happen as often, or it's minimized. So for the stuff that you can't delete, that was maybe a little tricky or a little concerning when you're younger, we actually teach teens and even adults how to bury it. So you make it harder to find, right?
What are the disadvantages of having close to no digital presence?
What do you think?
There's nothing inherently wrong or bad with that. The question is, if you are competing for something to get a position or opportunity and you have a competitor who has a really good, awesome digital presence, is there a potential that they're going to get that opportunity above you because they have more to show?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. That's the disadvantage. There's nothing inherently wrong with not having a digital presence, but if I'm an employer, is a good example, I'm looking to hire one person, I'm now down to 2 candidates, and I got one candidate who's got no digital presence, and I got another one who's got absolutely really great social media presence that reflects well on what it is I'm looking for as a candidate, then who am I going to pick? I'm probably going to pick the person who's got the good presence, right? So that's one of the things that you kind of lose if you don't have a digital presence online.
One advantage, though, of having no digital presence is if you have a future goal of becoming a spy, well, then that would be a benefit for you.
We've actually been saying that for years now, is that, because of everybody taking selfies of themselves and facial recognition, I think it's going to be harder for people who are joining police departments, federal agencies with 3 letters that do spy work internationally. It's going to be harder for you to maybe get a job because, state actors, you come walking through their border and you say you're John Joe, and all of a sudden they do a facial recognition and go, hold on, no, you're not, you're Brandon Laur. Well, that becomes problematic, right? So not having a presence is that's one of the benefits, right? But I think it's going to get harder and harder for that to happen, right?
You watched New Season of Jack Ryan?
No.
Oh, it's out now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Any good?
I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will.
All right. Speaking of spies.
Yeah.
Is Twitch a good side job to pay tuition?
Go for it.
How much are you making?
Exactly.
And is it sustainable?
That's the issue.
It could be. I mean, there are people who make a decent amount of money or a living wage on Twitch. But are you?
Yeah, they're putting in big hours, right? Like they're putting in well over 40 hours a week. So how do you manage that and going to university or college at the same time? Yeah. And
it's possible, but the question is, can you make it work?
Yeah, exactly.
It might be useful. Let's say you have a student loan, right? You get a loan to go to college, university, so you're not necessarily having to work,
right?
But you can use money from Twitch to pay off the principal.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean,
maybe
it's possible, but I mean,
it's just how much money you're putting in Twitch and what's your return on investment, right?
Yeah. Can you see people's usernames they've used before? Yeah, it's possible. Often there's data that track people's name changes, or people post things. You can see the old names. And sometimes things we do as online investigators is find different names and aliases people have used online.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for us to be able to do that. So,
will universities or employers dig for information? As in, if I can't see anything on myself, will they be able to?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. I mean, the reality is here in Canada, United States, it's not a requirement for universities to be looking at those types of things unless it comes to scholarships and grants, much like the United States. So that's really the only time they're going to be doing that. But or employers are going to be doing something like that, right? So again, that's why one of the things that we teach in our leveraging program is to teach students how to search the internet to find out what the internet knows about them by using specific search booleans to help you see what a college, university, or employer is going to see. And if you can't see those things, if you're doing a proper search on yourself, then the likelihood of a college or university finding anything is going to be negative if in fact they decide to drill down that deep. And the only time we see that happening is for, like I say, scholarships, grants, academic sports scholarships, or for employers.
I have a YouTube channel that is mostly unrelated to my school and career goals, but I think is a good reflection of my personality and work ethic. Is that something schools would be interested in seeing, or also businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it gives us it shows us more who you are as a person, rounds you out as a person, right? It shows us, gives us a better understanding of who you are as an individual. So my recommendation would be absolutely.
Is it a good idea to post your sports highlights online?
Absolutely.
If you have a goal to be a professional athlete, or even just showing your commitment to your sport,
or to get scholarship,
or to use for businesses, showing you stuck with something, or you have these skills.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we helped one athlete who was a fairly good athlete. I mean, no superstar by any means, and he was looking to get a college scholarship. And a couple of his buddies on his team got it. He didn't. So what he and his parents did was they shot a number of videos of him during practices and games, and they created a website, put his videos on there, sent it to all kinds of college universities. He had 4 offers come his way as a result of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
if I get fired because someone posted something about me, even though I asked them to delete it, can I take legal action?
Only if what they posted isn't true. Right? Like if it's slander or libel, then the answer is yes. But if it's true, it's true. And just because you ask somebody, don't post it, there's nothing to prevent me from doing that, right? There's no law that says I can't do that. But if what they're posting is slanderous or libel, then yes.
Yeah, a lot of things I've seen, people of all ages, someone will, take a picture of you in public, you're on like a sidewalk, and then you go, oh, that's my photo, I own that, it's my copyright, it's my picture. Well, no, there's no expectation of privacy in public.
Yeah, there's a difference though when it comes to businesses, right? Under the federal laws here in our country, like the businesses can't be doing that. Like if you walk into business and they take a picture of you, they can't then use it for the purposes of advertising and that kind of stuff. Like there's privacy protection in place. But when it comes to individual citizens taking a picture of you, that's why the media can go out with their cameras, like TV news shows, and shoot pictures of people without your permission. Now, often they'll ask you for your permission, but there's nothing to stop them from doing that. But if what they're posting is not true, it's slanderous, it's libel, then yeah, you can take action.
Now, if the thing in question they're in possession of is, say, like a nude image, then there's different things that take effect. But generally, you can ask them, but they don't have to delete it.
Yeah, I mean, a good example is the non-consensual distribution of an intimate image. That's a really good example of that.
Do recruiters look for past mess-ups or present changes?
I think the latter, right? Present changes, right? Like we all make mistakes. Make mistakes. The question is, have you learned from those mistakes, right?
It does depend what you're looking to get into.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's something of political nature, well, maybe not. It depends. Yeah. How much money does it take to make a website?
I think it depends. I mean, a good example, Google Sites is free, but it's really minimalistic, and it's allowing you to create creativity to make it, give it your flavor, but that's free, right?
Yeah, if you're looking to own your own domain, that's a professional domain, and have proper web hosting, you're probably looking at minimum, maybe $10, $12 a month.
Ooh, that's really?
About that.
Yeah. So about $120 a year?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. Now, if you want to add extra privacy protection to make sure, because all websites you have to register with, you want to make that privatized, usually that's going to cost an extra $60 per year. But at the basic minimum, you're looking at around $10, $12. Yeah. Which is not a bad investment.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cost of what, like a Netflix subscription?
Yeah.
What consequences does one receive from bullying others?
It depends upon the type of digital peer aggression or bullying that's taking place, right? So it can range everywhere from a verbal warning to restorative justice to ending up having to go to court and being convicted and ending up with a criminal record, right? So it just depends.
My mom likes to post about me a lot on their Facebook account. Like, too much.
We hear this a lot.
Can or will that affect me getting into a college or university?
Yeah, we call that sharenting, right? And they actually say, I forget the statistic offhand, but by the time the child is 5 years old, they've already got over 1,500 pictures that parents have posted them. And, one of the concerns is that today's parents, who are the millennials, your age, they've been posting stuff on their kids. So we're creating these digital dossiers on our kids at younger and younger ages. But yeah, one of the things that I say to parents is, think before you post, because what's funny or cute today may not be in a couple of years from now, right? Because, what was funny today could be easily used when your child is in middle school and being targeted for bully, where the bully or the peer aggressor now does a quick Google search and they see that you posted a picture of your child when they were 3 years old going pee in a toilet for their first time, and then they weaponize it and use it against you. So this is why we're trying to educate, or we are educating parents more on these issues surrounding, sharenting. And, it's great to be a parent to say, hey, listen, look at my kids, look at all the cool things I'm doing. But rather than posting it online, post it magnetically on your fridge so that nobody else can see it.
Or keep it in a private family group a chat setting. Yeah,
you just hope that one of your family members can become a frenemy of yours as well, because we've seen that happen as well. So. But this is a real issue. Like, parents are sharing too much about their kids, not understanding the consequences. We actually have a presentation called Sharenting that we do for parents. And trust me, after the parents go through that, they all say to us, like, I never realized that these were some of the issues, right? So I feel your pain.
Can I force someone to delete a photo of me from their phone?
No. Unless the photo is of a intimate image, right? If it's a non-consensual intimate image that a person has on their phone, then depending upon where you live in Canada and the United States, they can be forced legally to have that picture taken down. But if it's, you mentioned it earlier, if it's just me going out and right now I take a picture of you, boop, and then I post online, can you legally get me to take it down? No, you can't.
What would you recommend for recruiting process for athletes?
Yeah, you know what? I always say, and again, I get back to this one student that we helped, is that, if you're looking to get recruited for the purposes of a scholarship or to make it onto a sports team, I think having, a parent going to all your practices to record what it is that you're doing in your practices and into your actual games and recording what you're doing in your games, and then creating like the top 10 things or like really cool things, and then creating a website using Google Docs or some of the other thing, or Google Sites, and some of the other things that we talked about, and then putting that on there and then combining it with things that you're doing in the community from a volunteer standpoint or any awards that you've won. That is the way to kind of buffer your digital your digital resume to leverage it to your advantage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any ethical concerns with looking at social media when applying for things such as jobs and universities?
I don't quite understand this.
So is it problematic for employers to be looking at someone's social network?
No. However, employers are bound, depending upon where you live, they are bound that if they are going to do that, they're supposed to notify you that they're doing it. And that if you ask them, well, what did you find? They're supposed to produce it to you.
Yeah.
But what a lot of employers will do is they won't disclose the fact that that's what they're doing. I mean,
there are privacy laws, depending on where you live, that do limit what can be looked at and how it can be looked at and whatnot. But
I mean, we ask employers all the time, how many of you look at, candidates' social media before you hire them, and all their hands go up, right? Like, it's just a part of what it is that they're doing in today's world. And, ethically and morally, it's an interesting question, because if you're posting stuff and making it public out there, then it's public, right?
Right,
So,
because it can take a customer of the business to bring that up, because they're not limited to what they can look at, and they see an employee who's working for a business is posting horrible, evil, ugly things publicly on the internet. Then that then becomes a business problem that needs to be solved.
and sometimes the solving of that problem is termination from the job. And we've got a number of examples from across Canada and the USA to show people that, hey, listen, what you post online, both on and off the job, can have consequences, right?
Yeah, so I guess the question would be, should social media be looked at through application processes?
Well, I think legally, a number of lawyers that we've consulted with said that if employers aren't doing that, it's negligent,
Yeah, there could be negligence.
right? Because they didn't do their due diligence, and maybe they're hiring somebody where if they would have done a social media background check, it would have showed that there were some real issues with this candidate before, and because you didn't do that, it could be negligence, right?
But there are privacy commissioners who say no, that you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I kind of side with a happy medium, is that they should be doing it, but if they're doing it, they should be doing it correctly, i.e. they should have a secondary party doing it rather than them, so that if there's stuff that isn't relevant to the job position, that it's not seen by the person who's ultimately going to make the decision, number one. Number two, they should be disclosing the fact that they're going to do it during the recruitment or interviewing process. And number three, anything they have found, they should make it available to the candidate and say, listen, these are some of the things we found online. Can you help me understand? Because I find that a lot of HR people who are millennials, your age nowadays, they kind of get the fact that when you're younger, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. So they'll give you an opportunity to kind of explain some of the things that you've seen and what efforts have you made to change that for the better. Whereas my generation, when this first became popular, we wouldn't do that. We'd see something bad, bad gone, right? Without even giving you an opportunity.
Yeah, because I guess if you go anything bad gone, I mean, how many job candidates would be remaining?
Exactly.
Right? What should I do if my parents say no social media and I want to have a good social media impression?
Well, unfortunately, your parents are your parents, but I think one of the things that you can do is you can help educate them as well and about all the positives towards social media. And one of the ways to do that is have them go to our website, right? www.thewhitehatter.ca, where we've written a book called Parenting in an Online World. That is free. It costs you nothing, so that parents can actually read. And that book is based upon good evidence-based peer-reviewed research that we cite all the research to help support what our thoughts are. Because there's a lot of mis and disinformation out there that we call juvenoia, and which causes moral panic with parents. And what that just isn't based upon the good research out there. So, one of the ways you do that is by educating your parents and providing them with the resources to do that. But ultimately, your parents are your parents, right?
Yeah. If you were to post something bad but apologize,
just before we go there, I mean, how many times have you gone to lectures where pre-COVID where we had parents come up to us after our parents' presentations and say, "You've actually changed my mind," right? Like, we thought that it was this really bad thing, but you've actually changed our mind. Like, we're more open to allowing our kids to have access under specific conditions, depending upon what their ages are, right? Like, we don't say to parents, give your kids total unabated access to everything on the internet. No, right? It should be a graduated process, right? So, which involves parental participation, parental communication, parental overwatch where appropriate and reasonable, allowing your kids to have some agency in making decisions online and building resiliency in them, right? So,
if you were to post something bad but apologize and never have bad behavior again, would they still reflect on the bad things?
Yeah, this is one of the issues I have with cancel culture, to be quite honest with you, right? Is that a lot of times with this cancel culture, that even if the person is showing true remorse, they don't care.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're applying for and if it's politically advantageous for them to accept the apology or not.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
depends. It depends on what you're looking to apply for.
And also it depends upon what it is you did too.
That's
right?
true.
Right?
Yeah, that's true as well. You said having good social media presence is a good thing, but what if I find social media to be destructive and toxic and damaging to my own mental health?
Then that's the decision that you make, and that's the right decision, right? Like don't let anybody else tell you what you should be doing. Our whole goal here is to provide students and teens with all the information that we have so that you can make an informed decision. And if your informed decision is that you don't want to use it because of your own mental wellness or mental health issue, then that's the right decision, right?
It's social media is not for everybody.
No.
Much like college, university is not for everybody. Much like doing sports is not for everybody. Macs and PCs are not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people like Macs. Some people like PCs.
I'm a Mac guy. You know that.
Yes, I like Macs too, but I use both.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, and yeah, if that's what you want, that's totally fine.
Absolutely. But just understand, again, I kind of want to emphasize, because I want to be open and honest with you, that when it comes to job opportunities of the future, there's no doubt that having a positive social media presence can definitely be of a benefit to you, right? But again, if you make the decision, and I guess one of the comments I would have is, are the sites you on, are those what are being toxic? So a good example, having a good social media presence is not necessarily on Instagram or TikTok or, Snapchat, where things can get pretty toxic, or even some online gamings. But, are you a coder? Are you learning to code? Are you developing websites? Do you have a podcast that you're doing? These are all positive things that are kind of social media related that are less toxic because you control that, right?
Yep.
You're not letting other people on all these other social medias add to the toxicity, right? But ultimately, you make the decision that is best suited for you.
When should I start putting my name onto the internet?
Well, I guess it depends upon what it is that you want to do. But for scholarships and grants, for sports scholarships or academic scholarship or grants, about grade 11 is when we start saying, listen, you should be moving away from a something to hide to a something to show attitude, where you're now going to leverage it to your advantage. Definitely when you move into college and university, if you're now looking to be employed in certain employment fields, then, by using social media to demonstrate your skills and ability and that you're searchable, because we know that many companies now aren't necessarily waiting for applicants to come to them. They're actually seeking applicants out because of the cool things that these applicants are doing on social media. And they're going, that's the type of candidate I want to hire into my company.
Yep.
Right, so.
That's not grade 11 is the absolute point.
No.
I mean, we've met elementary students who are doing great, amazing things.
Absolutely.
And they have their full name publicly on the internet because, one, they are doing really good stuff. They have parental support that's kind of overseeing things to make sure there's no mistakes. And they have scaffolding in place to make sure they're best leveraging that position.
Absolutely.
Given that age, there could be problems, but there's strategies to help prevent that.
Sure.
What are you doing if you're in grade 9 and you're doing great volunteer work?
For sure. I mean, just look at during COVID, look at that one middle school student who created those air filters, where you can build it yourself with the big fan and then the filters.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what they're called. They're called a specific issue, but there was a teen in Ontario who did it for his school, and it blew up to the point where he made it his own business and was selling these things, right? Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Alrighty.
There you go. I am always amazed at the questions we get, because these questions, not only are they from high school students, but they're also from middle school students and students in elementary schools, right? Like, it's just amazing to see the questions, which tells me that, the kids, when they hear us speak, they're really becoming critical thinkers about what it is that they're doing online, because that's our goal, right? Like, our goal is to provide them with the information so that they can make an informed decision. And that's what critical thinking is all about. And a part of that is expanding on what it is that we're sharing with them. And this is what the Q&A is all about. Like, we usually give 15 or 20 minutes to answer these questions live, but it's just unbelievable. I think the last one we did, we had like 80 questions come our way.
Yeah.
And there's just no way we can answer them all. So this is a really good venue to allow us to answer those questions that are top voted every month.
Yep. And those were the top upvoted questions we didn't get time to answer from December. So be subscribed if not already, and look out for January's questions. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Alrighty. We'll
All right.
see y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.